So welcome to the third segment of the power of silence, nonverbal communication. Now you've heard about the meaning of nonverbal communication. You've got a brief introduction about it. You've got to know what are the different advantages and the importance of nonverbal communication. And we won't be dwelling into the disadvantages of nonverbal communication, but we will learn about the different types or forms of nonverbal communication and how we can improve our nonverbal communication and what we should avoid in our nonverbal communication. So here we go. Now what do you think could be the different types or forms of nonverbal communication? It can have many things. Like I said in my first segment, facial expressions. Now facial expressions, as you can see in the image, you have a very passive or a nervous expression, which also is seen on the face. The eyes also given to or are in sync with the facial expression. Being assertive is being strong about what you want to share, and being aggressive is being very angry, if I can say, and sometimes aggressive is not very forthcoming as being assertive. Hand gestures are also a part of nonverbal communication. You can use your hands as you are explaining certain things, right? Or you want to use your hands to shake hands, pat them on the back, give them a hug. Everything comes under the hand gestures. Use of eye contact, maintaining eye contact throughout the audience as you are speaking. Having different ways of expressing your emotions through your eyes, like angry or happy, and then being nervous. Everything comes along with your facial expression and your eyes as well. Physical proximity. Now we will be learning about physical proximity, but I want you to understand that there are different personal spaces, like I mentioned earlier, in a person, or a person that usually when they communicate to another person in a non-verbal manner. Alright, so there are 4 different parts. One is your personal space, one is your intimate space. Now when I am talking about personal space, it can be just a few feet apart. Alright, when it is an intimate space, there isn't any space basically, because you are close with your partner. A social distancing or a social space is what we've observed during COVID as well. We've kept a minimal proximate distance from each other in a social distance. And the last is the public space. So in a public or in a mall or in a bank or in a metro, train, bus, you have a particular distance that you need to maintain. That is your public space. So each person has different proximities or proxemics even when they are communicating with each other. And there are other nonverbal cues which we will also be learning about today. Now, nonverbal communication is 4 times or much more effective than verbal communication. And we've also known that because we've already learned about it at the beginning. We've learned the importance of nonverbal communication. So when we say it is much more effective and much more important, it is because our whole body is communicating. You remember I told you all the different percentages. 77% is just the words, 55% is what our body is communicating to another person. And when this happens, you are giving most of your body, most of yourself in communicating with another person. So when this happens, you are able to make it much more effective through your nonverbal communication. Humans reciprocate with thousands of nonverbal cues and behavior. Now, when I have some news to share with someone, obviously I will be using my words, but also my nonverbal behavior. Now, because I'm an Indian and because I come from a place where we have different cultures altogether, where we focus more on eye contact and hand gestures, along with passing on a message, we also use a lot of hands. Let's say I need to go to a doctor and I need to talk about what is happening to me. You don't see me just sitting like this and explaining it to the doctor of what is happening to me. You use your hands. You tell, okay, my head is aching. You tell, my eyes are hurting, my ears are hurting, or my teeth here, they need filling. So you do use your hands. You don't just use your words. So we humans, especially Indians, use a lot of gestures and non-verbal cues to make an impact when we are talking to another person. Non-verbal communications also reveals who we are as a person and how we relate to other people. Now, like I said, you give most of yourself in a communication or in a conversation. It is not only words, it is also your non-verbal cues. So when this happens, you are focusing on or intentionally you're focusing on your body, your eye contact, your hand gestures, your facial expression, your voice tone. Everything comes together. And when you're able to have it in sync with what you are speaking, you can make a wonderful impact on people that you are meeting, or an impact on people that you're having a daily conversation with, especially students. What happens if you are a professional and you want to get in touch with a child, or you want to get in touch, why do you think children like mothers, or prefer their mothers more than their fathers? The reason being, the mothers are able to give in all of their non-verbal behaviors as compared to the fathers. So this is what happens when we communicate with each other. You make a huge impact on the other person. So all of this together are different types of non-verbal communication. Now, who started the study of non-verbal communication? Though we had known what non-verbal communication is right from the beginning, nobody really gave it a study, nobody really gave it a thought. But there was this one particular person called Charles Darwin, and everybody knows who Charles Darwin is. So when he was observing people and animals, he noticed that we are able to communicate through non-verbal behavior much more effectively than verbal behavior. He asked questions such as, why do we have to wrinkle our forehead when we think about something? Why do we grind our teeth when we get angry? Or why our nose flare when we get angry? So when he was asking these questions, he noticed that the mammals as well showed similar expressions. And that's when he came about the book, The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals. And in this book, he learned that mammals expressed emotions through their facial expression. You remember, like I said earlier, so you have their ears flapping in case they are happy about something, right? Their eyes also glitter with joy when you start playing with them. So all of these emotions are seen similar to men and in mammals or animals. And because of this, we have a history or evolution of history because of our non-verbal communication. Verbal communication might have just started few years ago or some decades ago. But non-verbal communication has been as much as a human being has been on this earth, or a mammal has been on this earth. So we have acquired communication value through the evolution of our history throughout, and nothing has changed. The evolution of history has remained the same. Our non-verbal communication is the same from our ancestors to where we are now. Verbal might have changed, but non-verbal is the same. So let's move on to the different types. Facial expressions. Now it can mean anything. We have seen in the first slide of the last segment, facial expressions when you are angry, when you are happy, your face changes its expressions. You may have a smile on your face or a frown on your face, anything, and which would also have an impact on the person that you meet. Gestures, You move your hands, you move your fingers, you move your body, right? All of these are also gestures when you have to speak to someone. So what do you mean by paralinguistics? It has nothing to do with content or verbal messages, but it has to understand about the voice or the tone in your voice. Now paralinguistics can also mean what is the kind of pitch that you use when you're trying to communicate something. Now a person who is nervous may have a voice like, oh my god, I do not know what to do. I do not know how to go about this test or viva. I'm really so scared and nervous. Right? That is one. A person who is happy, oh wow, I cleared my viva. I'm so happy. Right? So their pitch also would increase. Now a person with normal tone is similar to how I'm delivering my speech right now. Right? So paralinguistics is a study of your different pitches or the tone in your voice as you are communicating. Body language, we have already seen. If you have a closed body language, it can mean that you're not interested in the person. A open body language can mean that you're willing to help, you're willing to listen, and you're willing to understand and connect with that person. Proxemics or personal space, which I already explained. There are 4 different types of personal space. One is intimate space, which is very close to each other and there's absolutely no space in between. Personal space is where you have a minimal distance from each other. Social space is what you see in malls, right? Or having a social distance maintained, especially like during the times of COVID. And you have your public space, which you notice with all the other strange people when you pass by on the road or any mode of transport that you use. Eye gaze or haptics. Now haptics are to do with touch in a communication. Shaking hand, patting on the back, giving them a hug. All of this comes with haptics, and along with haptics you have your eye gaze. Now you don't shake hands with someone by avoiding eye contact. You will be looking at them into their eyes and shaking hands. Or when you're patting someone on the back, you won't be looking somewhere else and patting, right? You would be again maintaining eye contact and you'll be like, good job, well done, so and so, you've done wonderful. Or even when you're giving a hug, I know you cannot maintain eye contact, but before you go to give a hug, you will maintain a few fraction seconds of giving them that eye contact, showing them you care, showing them that love and comfort that they need, right? So this is to do with haptics. Appearance. Now appearance can mean anything. How you present yourself to that person when you are communicating with them, right? Only if you're presentable will a person feel like coming and speaking to you. But if a person isn't, then obviously there is something wrong with the appearance. Now don't mean attractiveness, please don't get confused with that. Presentable and attractiveness is completely different. If you come with stinky body, hair not combed or unkempt hair, unkempt teeth, body odor coming out from you, obviously nobody will like to come forward and speak to you, and that has to do with your appearance. So be presentable so that people come and talk to you. Artifacts. Artifacts are basically things that you see around which have a particular message to pass on, like a chair, a sofa, a desk, a board, a chalk. Everything has something to pass on. We all know why do we need a board and a chalk, because a teacher can write or students can write on the board. Why do you need a chair? Because you need to sit, or that chair has been in different places at different times. So artifacts speak a lot about how you can communicate through them. So chronemics is basically use of time in a communication. How punctual you are when you have to give your speech. The pauses that you're giving during your speech. Are you giving the students or the audience enough thought process as you're speaking, or are you speaking like a fast train? So everything depends on chronemics, timing. when you are speaking, ensure that you give enough pauses and enough space for a person to process what you are saying, and also punctuality as you are speaking. Now we'll talk about the different types, and this will be coming under body language. Open body language. Now what do you mean by open body language? If I continuously sit like this during my session and teach you, it would show that I am disinterested and you would turn off this video at this right moment, right? But if I have an open body language, I showcase my hands, I move my arms, I show you my face with different facial expressions, you would also be interested in listening, right? So when you have to have a communication with someone, always see to it that you communicate them with open arms. Never close your arms when you're talking, because that gives a very wrong message to a person. Maintain eye contact. This is very crucial and important. If you do not maintain eye contact, you lose this person. Now imagine there is someone approaching me and I want to talk to them, alright? Or rather a very important person, a very important celebrity, and I go and say, hello Mr. So and so, I want to talk to you. And he'll be like, yeah, tell me, what is it? Will you feel like talking to that person? No. You need to ensure that they can maintain eye contact. Like, sir, excuse me, can you please look at me when I'm talking to you? Right? Then you feel connected. Then you feel like someone is listening to you. So always ensure that you maintain eye contact. Smile. This is the most beautiful curve any person can have on their face. And when you smile, you immediately and instantly attract the audience or the person you are trying to talk to. So smile is very important when you're having a open body language. Now closed body language. Do we really need closed body language? Crossed arms and legs. When you have crossed arms and legs, it can mean 1,000 things and more, and it can mean that you're not interested in talking to them, or you're feeling aggressive or stern towards them, or you do not appreciate what they are saying, right? Avoiding eye contact. When you are having a closed body language, along with your arms and legs, you also avoid eye contact. And when this happens, you definitely lose a person. Looking downwards. Remember when I said, if someone is coming and talking to you, you keep your eyes on the phone, or you look somewhere else, or you look on the floor. That shows disinterest in talking to that person. So you will not be going any further with that conversation. Now here's a short animated video to help you understand how, if you have a closed body language, how it can have an effect on the other person, and how you should be when you can have an open body language. So please watch this video. So next is eye contact. Now you know that eye contact is very important when you're talking to someone. You cannot waver your eyes if that person is in front of you, but you can waver it if you have a huge audience in front of you. So always ensure you know what or who is in front of you as you are speaking, so you can then notice that you can maintain eye contact with each and every one. This is a very important factor when you are having a non-verbal communication. Not only non-verbal but also verbal. It is a key characteristic in any form of communication, eye contact. It involves conscious and unconscious process of encoding and decoding. Now what do you mean by encoding and decoding? Encoding is basically where you take in a message, you process the message and you understand that message. Decoding is the similar message that you pass on to the other person. So when you're doing this, when you have eye contact, you'll be able to remember that person, the way they spoke to you, the way they met you, and everything about that person as you're decoding because you remember the eye contact, right? So maintaining eye contact helps you in processing information both consciously and unconsciously. And while maintaining eye contact, you also are able to establish a certain amount of trust in that conversation, a certain amount of relationship in that conversation. So when you have this, you can tell that, okay, so we've had a strong bond or we've just started connecting because of eye contact. Duration of eye contact also denotes different meaningful aspects. Let's say a 1 second eye contact, okay, so you all are not friends but just strangers trying to get in touch with each other or trying to ask each other's help. Longer eye contact means you all are in a relationship or you all have been friends for quite some time or the other person just needs comfort. So everything can depend on the duration of the eye contact that you have with the person. Like I said, eyes are a diary to your soul or to your heart, and this is similar to when it comes to your range of emotions. Your eyes speak much more than your words. So eyes indicate different range of emotions. Anger, fear, happiness, sadness, excitement, love, everything comes in with eyes. So please ensure that you maintain eye contact, if not for you, at least to understand the person who's standing across you. Maintaining eye contact shows that you can be respectful towards that other person, and also indicates that you are interested in listening to them. When you maintain eye contact, the other person also feels important and they feels like, okay, so there is someone listening to me and there is someone respecting me. But if you don't maintain eye contact, then you know that there is no respect and no interest in that person having a conversation with you. So here's a small link on a YouTube link on the importance of eye contact. So please make sure that you listen to this, because eye contact in any conversation is very important, and it will also show you how you can maintain eye contact with the person even though you may not be interested. Next we move on to facial expression. Now our face is a canvas of emotions, and we've already seen that. We can keep a straight face, we can keep an angry face, we can keep a confused face, a sad face, happy, everything. So it's like a canvas. You have different paints in the canvas and your face is just a palette, and you are able to paint any kind of emotions you want. So when this happens, you should utilize your expressions in that particular manner. Through facial expressions, it becomes a practical way of communicating what you are feeling, what you are going through. So ensure that your practical means of communication, your facial expressions are in sync with what you are feeling and what you are speaking. It is responsible for a huge proportion of non-verbal communication. Now facial expression, you remember at the beginning of the first segment I said, oh, I have good news to share. Now my facial expression, my voice, everything had toned down. But if I come with a happy and excited face, then definitely you'll be like, okay, I want to listen to this good news that you have to share, right? So facial expressions take in much more responsibility than any other form of non-verbal communication. A smile or a frown conveys much more meaning than words do, and which you've already established that, right? So ensure that you are able to communicate through your facial expressions better than your words. We must also learn how to interpret. The reason being, if you are unable to interpret what a person is going through or the facial expressions that he is expressing, and you may be misled or misguided if you are not able to interpret the actual meaning of their facial expression, right? This will help you understand each other better. So you have to be upfront and ask them, are you okay? Is something bothering you? All of this you may ask when they are angry or when they are confused or when they are sad, right? So your facial expressions should be in sync with what you want to share, and you need to learn to interpret how you can understand facial expression. Through facial expression, we are able to dig deeper into connections and emotions. We are able to understand the different emotions a person is going through and also build a better connection with that other person. There are a lot of cultural differences when it comes to facial expression, but majority are similar throughout the world, especially when it comes to the universal emotions such as happiness, confusion, sadness, surprise, angry, excitement. All of this are similar, but there are other expressions where we would not be able to understand what that person is going through or what they are trying to convey. So here's a short video on facial expressions and how each video can tell you about different emotions and different ways. So this will also help you in interpreting other facial expressions that you meet. Okay, so next is hand gestures. Now hand gestures are deliberate movements and signals, and we have seen hand gestures mainly in traffic police, right? They want to tell you stop, they want to tell you go forward, go left, go right, right? So we use our hand gestures for different emotions that we want to express. We want to say good, well done, good job, you've done a good job with a thumbs up. You want to tell stop, wait for something. No, if you want to tell a child don't do that, right? Come, go, all of these are different hand gestures that we use in different ways. Now again, there are different cultural differences in hand gestures. Okay, so hand gestures are powerful and influential, right? So you have our politicians coming and saying namaskar, so you have this is also a very powerful hand gesture, especially like I said, there are different cultural differences. So this in India also means being respectful towards the other person, right? Shaking hands is a professional hand gesture. This can mean peace. So again, it depends on the kind of hand gesture you are expressing and in the different places that you are expressing. It also is linked to sign language for people who cannot hear, right? So sign language helps in communicating, especially with people who cannot hear. So these hand gestures are also more effective towards them. So you have a link here which shows you about hand gestures around the world. So this can be an eye opener for you, because there can be certain hand gestures which might offend someone, alright, because they belong to a particular culture but is approved by some other cultures. So this is just a nice video on the different hand gestures around the world. So coming to the do's in non-verbal communication. Now what are the do's? Maintain eye contact with the audience, which we have already established when we have different types of non-verbal communication. Now maintaining eye contact is very, very important and can have a bigger impact than anything else. So ensure that you maintain eye contact not only with the audience but also with the person you are having a conversation with. If you are with the phone, you can tell them, hold on a minute, let me finish my work and get back to you so that I can pay complete attention towards you and what you have to share. So ensure that you maintain good eye contact. Talk with the purpose hand gestures. Now, do not simply use hand gestures for the sake of it. There are people who do that. Use hand gestures only when necessary. So you want to make something, you want to you make an impact on the people, you want to ensure that the person follows what you say, that's the time you use your hand gestures. Don't simply just go on like you're doing a dance, because that then puts off the communicator or puts off the person that you are trying to talk to, and then they may assume that you are much more into theatre or theatrics than having a conversation with them. So ensure that you use hand gestures in a very purposeful manner and in a very important manner. It is okay to look at notes. Please don't feel like if I don't look at my notes, I'm going to forget and I will not be able to maintain eye contact. You can look at notes and maintain eye contact as well. Avoid notes is generally what I would say, but it is also okay to look at notes. Don't look at notes throughout your conversation or throughout your talk when you're having a communication. What happens then? You lose your audience, right? So first is you need to maintain eye contact, alright? You can look at notes at a glance and then come back. But if you continuously look at your notes and talk, then you lose your audience. So ensure that you do both in a very balanced manner. Face the audience. You don't need to show your back to the audience, but you need to show your front to the audience. They need to see your face. They need to see your body. They need to see how you move, how you speak, what kind of expressions you are sharing, and the eye contact that you are maintaining. So ensure that you face the audience, and if possible, avoid the podium at any cost. The reason being, if you stand in front of a podium and you are talking to the audience, you are then unable to build the bridge between the audience and yourself. So to do that, you need to ensure that you are able to get away from the podium. At the beginning, it may be a task or a challenge. Slowly, please take a step aside towards the audience, so then you feel more connected towards the audience and not more connected towards the podium. Walk towards the audience. Please do not walk against, always walk towards. If your presentation has something to do with connecting with the audience, you can walk in between the audience as well. That also is a highly effective way of maintaining non-verbal communication. Smile. Always remember to smile, because if you don't smile, then the audience will be like, oh wow, she's very strict and I do not want to listen to her. But if you smile, you get much more connected, alright? And when you get connected, what happens? People listen to you. So remember to smile. Always ensure that you show your natural emotions and you are in sync with your emotions and what you want to convey. Alright? If you are conveying anger, then please go ahead and show that emotion. If you are conveying happiness, then please do so with that emotion. Again, be in sync with your emotions and your expressions. Do not fake or force any particular kind of emotion. Broadcast your voice, your tone of voice. Now, your voice can be much more effective if you know how to play around it. You need to know how you can bring in voice modulation. Now, I might be talking at the same wavelength, but there can be instances when you are expressing something, you have to increase or decrease your voice depending on the scenario or situation. Alright. Now you needn't maintain the monotonous tone, because what happens if you maintain monotonous tone? People will sleep. They will definitely sleep. You have heard of Arnab Goswami, right? The famous TV news reporter. He has a good tone of voice, and I really like his voice because he is able to differentiate his emotions or differentiate the different scenarios in his voice. Because of that, it can have much more impact, right? Only through his voice he is able to reach out to people. Okay, but if you have a monotonous tone, like let's say, okay, so the do's in non-verbal communication: maintain eye contact with the audience, talk with the purpose, hand gestures, okay to look at notes. People will sleep. They'll be like, what is she saying? And first of all, she's reading. So that's when you have monotonous tone. But just be conscious about how you're having a conversation with someone. And when you're having a conversation with someone, you have an animated voice. Along with your hand gestures and your emotions, you also have an animated voice. So when you do that, you're able to attract the audience. By animation, again, I don't mean you need to have a voice like a cartoon character, but what I meant is bring in and play around your tone of voice. Alright, so that can also attract the audience in a very impactful manner. Along with your natural emotions, appropriate emotions are also needed. So ensure you express them in a very rightful manner. Lastly, be yourself in a nonverbal communication towards an audience. You don't need to fake, you don't need to tell yourself, okay, I'm not confident and I need to be confident. It's okay if you're not confident. With experience, with exposure, you will be confident and you will be yourself. So ensure that you maintain that standard throughout. So coming to the don'ts in nonverbal communication. So when we speak about don'ts, we've already spoken about the do's, what you need to do when you are in a nonverbal communication, and how you need to portray yourself when you are in a nonverbal communication. Now we come to what you can avoid in a nonverbal communication. Don't dart your eyes around the room. Now when I say don't dart your eyes, I don't mean like jump, 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 because that will be like very odd when you are in front of an audience. If you are having a one-on-one conversation, ensure that you maintain eye contact with that person. I know it would be difficult to maintain eye contact for 15 minutes or more, so you can just move around and come back, but not like this. Alright, ensure you just like, okay, fine, yeah, and then you come back. Alright, but when you are speaking to an audience, you need to glance at them, not dart. Okay, so you just maintain eye contact. Like, so in a non-verbal communication, this is how you need to portray yourself, this is how you need to behave, this is how you need to talk, this is how you can maintain eye contact. Alright, darting is jumping from one person to the other. Like, okay, so alright, okay, okay. So that's not how it goes, because then the audience also imitates and follows you and they will not be able to focus. Okay, so avoid darting your eyes around the room. Don't stare at one person. That person will feel awkward and odd throughout the session. So staring at only one person as you're talking will put off that person, will put off the other people in the room as well, because they will be like, are we not existing? Okay, so ensure that you don't stare at anyone and have a uniformed eye contact with everyone. Don't flap your arms. Okay, I have told, use your arms in a very purposeful manner, so ensure you do that. The minute you start using your arm like, I was doing this and this and this, that is also going to put off the audience. Okay, so ensure you use your arms in a very purposeful manner that is appropriate for the conversation or communication that you are sharing. Don't continuously look at notes. This I have already told. So when you continuously look at notes, what happens? The audience loses interest in you. So ensure that you don't do that and balance between the notes and the audience. And when I am saying balance, the notes should be at a minimal and the audience should be more. So ensure you do that as well. Don't talk to visual aids. Now let's say you have a PPT here, right? You can see this PPT. Now I am not looking at this and talking. I am not looking only here. I am not reading out only these points, right? I am explaining it further. What happens, most of the people when they are presenting, they'll have all of the content on the PPT and they'll be just reading from that. Where are you connecting with the audience then? You're unable to connect, right? So ensure that you are able to talk to your audience through the visual aids, not to the visual aids but through. You are talking and you are presenting your speech to the audience through your visual aids. This should just be like an added advantage so that the audience doesn't feel bored listening or looking only at you. Don't look at your watch. The minute you look at your watch now and then, they'll be like, oh, she needs to go somewhere, right? So avoid that at all costs. Ensure that you don't look at your watch throughout. If you want, just glance at it once, but you don't need to look at it now and then. That's what happens when you want to fast track on something. So avoid looking at your watch as you are presenting. Don't shuffle papers, because as you are shuffling, you lose interest with the audience as well. Okay, so make sure that your papers are in place as you're talking, and make sure they are in accordance to how you want to speak. So in case you want to look at notes instead of having big papers, have small snippets of what you want to present. And when you have these small snippets on small pieces of paper, you can just put the pointers so you can then explain it further. If you have like a paragraph, then you will end up reading it, and that will not be helpful to your audience or for your communication as well. Like I said, avoid the podium as much as possible. If you use your podium throughout, then again you lose your interest with the audience. The audience loses interest in you. So move away from the podium as much as possible. You can use it to keep your notes, you can use it to go back to your notes, but you don't need to stand behind it to get protection. You can stand out. The audience is not going to throw eggs and tomatoes at you. You are facing the audience. You are in control of that audience. So deliver or present in the manner that you feel I want to hear it one day, right? So ensure you do that. Don't turn back to the audience. I've already told you the audience wants to see your face. They want to see how beautiful you are. They want to see how effective you can be when you face the audience, right? And they can't do that if they see your back. They have to see your face. Don't put your hands in the pocket as you're talking, and don't fidget with any object, because that shows that you'll be distracted or that shows that you're disinterested. So ensure that you have your hands free, all right, and then just communicate with them as you feel comfortable. And lastly, I have a short video on the don'ts in non-verbal communication. Ensure you see this video, take in all the points, all right, and make sure that you follow them. If you have any doubts, you know whom to reach out to, and I'm sure you all will do a wonderful job in the way you communicate with people through both verbal and non-verbal communication. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.